along we're going to do sort of a quick hit here on three. We try to always wrap up with what's important to CIO. We didn't have a big juicy CIO story, but three, I'll kind of queue them up for you here and then you can go through them, but three sort of quick hit stories. The first, I think this is relevant from a CIO perspective. There's a interesting and simmering battle between Microsoft and OpenAI. Effectively, I think the easiest way to characterize this is Microsoft is trying to renegotiate their contract with OpenAI, leveraging on the fact that OpenAI is trying to change their structuring model so that they're turning into a for-profit, which they've now officially abandoned in large part because of this negotiation with Microsoft. The Microsoft had effectively blocked it. And I'm not sure if there's an impact to an enterprise buyer, but I think if you're in bed with either of these companies, which you probably are, you need to at least be paying attention to it. So that was one. The second one was there is a article from CompTIA saying that probably no shock to any CIO out there that the tech market is sort of in a bit of a tumult period where lots of not layoffs, but job shrinkage and not letting attrition kind of play out. And then the last one, of course, we'll say the last one. The last one's a government thing, I guess. So what's your take on these two and how, from a CIO's perspective, what would you make of them?
Yeah, I think the biggest interesting thing about Microsoft versus OpenAI is that anybody who made their AI decision, call it 18 months ago, probably thought that Microsoft and OpenAI were joined at the hip, and that the development of Microsoft AI was dependent on the progress that OpenAI was making. We're actually starting to see both companies hedge their bets to some extent. OpenAI is obviously working a lot more with SoftBank nowadays, and Microsoft is working on its own models, and we're starting to see this delinking. And this may mean that over time, that if you are betting on the OpenAI stack, you may not necessarily be able to get all of that directly through Microsoft, and you may have to set up a separate relationship with OpenAI and vice versa. This is not as coupled a relationship as it previously was. And I think from a strategic perspective, that is probably the most important thing to keep in mind. I don't think that CIOs really care whether OpenAI is a nonprofit or for-profit organization, other than that might change the profit model just a little bit and perhaps the pricing that OpenAI brings to market. But it seems like OpenAI is still already fairly expensive, quite frankly. So I don't think that's going to change much.
Yeah, well, I do think it's interesting. I think OpenAI has the greatest risk. I think they have a lot more to lose here. I mean, Microsoft has largely caught up, maybe not caught up, but they've made massive investments in developing very enterprise-focused models. They, I think, are sort of unburdened by this desire to create AGI. That isn't their primary thing, right? They're not trying to do all this research from like an esoteric standpoint. And I think at the same time, OpenAI is going through the growing pains, right? So part of the related news is OpenAI hired 2 new executives, in part to help offload Sam Altman, and I think they're trying to figure out how to become a real company now, right? And that sounds weird because seeing as how big they are, but I think in large part they've been in this weird sort of flux state, effectively riding this big giant wave. In fairness, that they created, but just riding this wave. And so I think from the risk, at least from an enterprise perspective, if I'm them, it's like if I'm a CIO today and I have to pick, if I see a separation happening, I'm probably picking Microsoft. Because there's a whole lot more there. My investment platform with them is much larger, all of that. And so I think that potentially does not bode well for OpenAI over the long haul. But we'll see. I don't know that this isn't a done deal. I don't think there's any signs that there's anything imminent, but definitely worth watching.